forward to how the new X-Men movie is going to be like, and also I am looking forward to how Doomsday is going to end up being. That is going to be a very chaotic movie.
Yes. But yes, I do think too that, like, again, I do understand too of like some of the things he was like, oh, Peter Parker going through this whole mutation thing is just so that it sets up for the X-Men. I'm like, and like I already explained before, it could be, but I feel like this is a more perfect analogy of like why like his spider DNA did happen too. And let's be honest too, there's not a lot of things that people truly know about. Like,
All right, I hit the recording button. So let's go ahead and start it off in 3, 2, 1. Good evening, everybody else, for another podcast recording. I don't have my usual co-host here, as this is going to be a movie review with our other cynical friend here. I call you. I mean, let's be honest here. Whenever you converse with me about movies, it's more comes out more cynical than possibly me. I don't even view myself as an optimist either, too, because I know when a movie is bad. But
I'm a realist.
That does not. That's not how that goes.
I'm the real one here.
Okay, there. Calm your horses there. But to tone it back a bit too, yeah, holy shit, Spider-Man Brand New Day just dropped, and I think it says too that like it might actually hit $2 billion box office by the end of this month.
Yeah, that's the most surprising thing for me. It beat out Endgame, and Endgame was like a generational thing.
Yeah, okay. Immediately a hot take for this one too. Do you think it's also because the fact that honestly people are kind of just waiting on the other Spider-Verse movie, and that Brand New Day was sort of like the itch that a lot of fans were trying to get?
No, I don't think so. There's a couple reasons I would think that explains why Brand New Day is doing really well. So this is a similarity between Brand New Day and Avengers Endgame.
Oh, Endgame.
Is that not No Way Home, but No Way Home is related to it because of story progression. One of the things that all the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies specifically do really well is that they always end on like a cliffhanger, and it gets the audience hooked and invested into the next entry, right? They do this in Homecoming and Far From Home, No Way Home, and Brand New Day. And Infinity War and Endgame kind of had, because Infinity War ended on a cliffhanger. It got the audiences invested into seeing what happens next, like seeing the whole saga through. So No Way Home was really good in the sense that it got a lot of people interested because all the old actors and the old Spider-Man came back, and then it ended on a cliffhanger somewhat, in the sense that, hey, he lost everything. Right. And so there is a commitment, there is a sort of a hook for audience to want to know how it's going to turn out. And I think that's one aspect that motivated a lot of audiences to go see Brand New Day, because a lot of the people who like probably whose first Spider-Man movie was the Tom Holland Homecoming movie, they grew up as this character, right? Just like how for me it was Toby, and for other people, probably for your age, was probably Andrew, right? Yeah. But for a lot of people, it is Tom Holland Spider-Man they grew up with, and then they want to see how he turns out. They want to see what happens to him. They want to see how he's doing, basically, and the continuation of his story, right? So, and a lot of the people who grew up with Homecoming, who first saw Homecoming, are basically now at an age where the age demographic fits nicely. I think they're like probably around early 20s, young adults. And so they probably young adult demographic is usually the demographic most people or most marketing would target, because that's usually when they loosen up their purse strings a little bit more.
Right.
Supposedly,
yeah. But in this case, for warnings to everybody else too, this is going to be heavy spoilers that we will be talking here. So if you haven't seen a movie yet, do go see this movie before you watch this video, because we are going to be talking a little bit in depth with some of I'd say a lot of the themes that I actually do like in Brand New Day compared to, I would say, No Way Home in a lot of sense here. So
But before we move on to that point, I want to pick your brain about this because
Oh
I want to
shit.
I kind of want to go back to the $2 billion thing, which is it
Mhm.
is a big deal. It is kind of a big deal that it outperformed Endgame, and which again I said was a generational thing, right?
Yeah.
So like I want to ask you, because Brand New Day came out at a very interesting time in terms of superhero genres, because this
Right.
is like one of the lowest points of the superhero genre, right? One of its lowest points. All the previous superhero movies before Brand New Day have been quite disappointing, I would say. There was a Supergirl movie,
Yes.
and then there was a whatever else. You can list off any of them you can think of that, other than Superman was pretty good, but Supergirl was
Right.
disappointing. And other Marvel projects before Brand New Day were also, from what I understand, disappointing. So how would you explain in a context that superhero movies have been doing poorly, and yet Brand New Day did really well?
Okay. So I here's the thing about that too. I don't think it's doing poorly is the problem here. I think it's done mediocre. I think mediocrity is like what killed like a lot of like the early, I'll say pre Ant-Man Wasp Quantumania, like some of the movies outside of, let's say, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, a lot of those movies kind of just felt pretty dry. Outside of also No Way Home as well, because I forgot No Way Home was released in 2021. Actually, that is kind of surprising how what big gap there was.
It was 5 years, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing about it too. I will say this too, that like I think for the most part, it was just the whole thing of people were or they were just releasing movies about heroes that not a lot of people really care about. But then the argument about like, oh, okay, so does that mean Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness should do well? Not necessarily.
Fantastic Four was right before Brand New Day.
Yeah, it was. And that's the thing about it too. A lot of people like the Fantastic Four too, but I don't think a lot of them like have a fond memory of it because of holy shit the amount of like shitty live action Fantastic Four films that we've gotten. Jeez. I'm not gonna go too deep into that part. But let's just say, for example, too, post Endgame that we have here too, we had in this case Spider-Man Far From Home, which I believe that is the Mysterio one, right? Yeah, it was
It's a
Mysterio.
Mysterio one.
That was in
Hmm.
2019. Then we had the Black Widow movie, which, mind you, between 2019 to 2022, I do have to give it a little bit of grace on this one too, because this was during COVID era too. So
Yes, that's true.
a lot of the filming was very janky, and it was very apparent in Black Widow. Like it was really jank. But I think for the most part too, I think it was sort of like, did I think the Black Widow movie was necessary? I don't think it does. I don't think so. Just because like all it really did is that like it introduced the new character Yelena, who is also in Brand New Day. For the record, I love Yelena in this, and she is
He's
probably
one of
like
me.
a new she is like a new addition into like the whole MCU cast that honestly it feels great to see. And she does have her own arc that gets explored a lot in the Thunderbolts. Or actually, no.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not Thunderbolts, maybe Hawkeye. Because it goes from like the transition that like you see her dealing with the fact that her sister died during Endgame. So that was, yeah. And her trying to come to terms with that. And up until that point, we had Shang-Chi, which despite me kind of trashing on Simu Liu here and there too, I still like the movie. I think it's probably one of like the better Marvel films that they have had. And it's also saying a lot too because one, I really don't like, I think at the time too, I did not like Captain Marvel. Ant-Man and the Wasp was pretty okay. And I think when Spider-Man Far From Home came out too, it was good, but I don't think it was like right. But I think I appreciated the direction that they took with Peter Parker's character in the fact that he's trying to like become his own Spider-Man, where it's the whole genius is that Spider-Man is like he gets to where he goes in backwards kind of thing, where they start him off low and then he goes back down to being like how people recognize him to be Spider-Man, being his own character. It's a very weird character arc that they're making him go through in this one, and it also is made apparent in Brand New Day as well.
Yeah, I saw a YouTube video essay about how like the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies is basically a reverse origin story,
Yeah, which
and I thought it was really interesting.
if anything, it's a very ambitious one too. Especially, it goes into the fact that everybody kind of knew about the Spider-Man origin story. So doing like from Homecoming to No Way Home, that is a very interesting like character progression if you look at his movies as a whole, because it goes from he is pretty much getting carried by, let's be honest, Iron Man's tech, and then afterwards, in the Far From Home, Iron Man is fucking dead and he is trying to live in a world without it, and he's trying to come up with his own. Then we go from No Way Home where his identity gets exposed to everybody and lots of shit happens when he tries to do more things than he could possibly handle. And the only resolution is hit the big reset button. And Brand New Day is just him kind of coming to terms with the decision that he made at the end of the last film. That was all that the movie was to me, at least. I think a lot of people probably interpreted a lot of like these story themes differently, but the way how Tom Holland is treated in Brand New Day is like, yeah, he is severely depressed in a lot of ways too, but it's also because of the fact that there's like, it's a type of movie, or not movie, but it's type of storytelling too of people with some levels of depression. I wish Scott was here too, so he could kind of go in on this too with me on the psychological standpoint. But it's like one of the things too that like I would like to argue that him holding out hope that at some point he gets to reunite with his love interest and his best friend, but later on the story kind of unfolds and it's like it's literally impossible to go back to the way it was, just because, you know, Peter Parker did what he had to do to like protect them, and it ended up in this case costing his own relationship, which holy fuck, we managed to go back in full circles of like the writings of Peter Parker is the fact that he struggles trying to maintain a simple relationship with his friends.
Yeah, he was very closed off in the beginning of Brand New Day. Very, very closed off.
Yeah.
And I think throughout the whole movie, when he comes to terms with the forget him spell,
Yeah.
that he finally decides it's okay to start opening up. I mean, it's like, hey, like, from what I think is that the beginning of Brand New Day, he was closed off because he was waiting. Like it's weird because like he's not doing anything to actively try to get the relationships he wanted back for, I guess, whatever reason. He's not doing anything to he's not doing anything to progress it or to taking initiative to go after them for whatever reason, and you know, reasons probably to protect them, but he's depressed over not having them, so it's like a weird conflict. Yeah,
it's anything, it feels like he's avoidant of it, like he's trying to avoid like getting to that moment too, because let's be honest, that is a terrifying thing to do.
It is, and it's understandable. So like when MJ confronts him, it's like really, it's a really good scene, and it's a really important character moment, and so that's when it really hammers home that, oh, he's not going to get those relationships back. He's no matter how much he waits, no matter how much he hopes, it's not going to happen. And so like then he starts actually opening up to Punisher, to DeWolf, the detective lady, which, by the way, if you know the character DeWolf, then
yeah, that's a very interesting callback
and
to
also
that thing.
Opening up to Jean Grey. So like he's starting to, okay, it's not happening, so I'm going to try to pick up the pieces, right? And I think that's pretty good.
Spoiler, Jean Grey is in this movie.
Oh yeah, spoiler, Jean Grey is in this movie. So but like at the end of the day, it is kind of a sad, bittersweet movie, because like if you pull yourself back and look at what happens to him in this movie, he doesn't really gain anything. I think you can argue that he gained friendship with the Punisher and DeWolf and Jean Grey, but like honestly, his relation and character interactions with DeWolf and Punisher at the beginning of the movie is already good enough. They're pretty much already friends, even though he doesn't like acknowledge it. But like, so what did he actually gain in this movie? I think he really didn't gain any. It's kind of like I'm comparing it back to Toby Spider-Man 2, because at the end of that movie, he ends up with MJ. Yeah, and that's a happy ending, right? Yeah. So to speak. He lost Harry. Harry didn't die, but he like quote unquote lost him because, well, you know. But at least he ends up with MJ. Like if the movie ended with MJ not running away from her wedding, that's basically what Brand New Day is. He lost. He didn't gain any. Tom Holland didn't gain anything from the
Yeah.
Brand New Day movie.
Yeah, because like here's the thing about it too, because I think compared to the rest of it too, I was actually okay with the ending for this one too, because here's the thing that it ends up like cementing for like Tom Holland's character. It's the fact that he is like gonna be like closure to what he really need is the fact that hey, the spell itself, there's not gonna be that much hope to. I think a lot of fans are really hoping them to like actually get back. But like I said too, I don't think that's going to happen yet. I have a very much a interesting theory that I think a lot of people are definitely overlooking in this too. So, if anything, in the rate of like out of all the Spider-Man stuff too, I actually put Tom Holland pretty high up there too. Of like, I think he has had like an amazing like character progression in terms of like becoming who he is now for Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree. Like, the actor got put into the role of Spider-Man, and he really grew into it. It's
Yeah.
like Daniel Radcliffe with Harry Potter. The actor grew into the character. This is what happens, Marvel, when you give your projects time to actually develop as a character and audiences to start committing to them. Although Spider-Man's kind of like
Yeah,
it's Spider-Man, but still,
Yeah.
like, this is what happens when you let when you let something cook.
Yeah, that's actually my only main gripe with the Shang-Chi movie is that the movie is great. I just don't like his character motivation for the main character, that is. Because here's the weird thing. Why the fuck did I relate more to his dad than to the main character himself, where the dad is supposed to be the antagonist?
Yeah, that's one issue that I have with certain Marvel projects, is that, like, whoever's writing these stories, sometimes very unironically, they write antagonists to be very sympathetic. Like
I
John Walker from
Yeah,
the Winter Soldier and Falcon TV
to
show.
be fair though,
Right?
he was set up correctly to be the antagonist villain because the
Yes,
way
he
how
is
he
set up
definitely lashed up. But
but
yeah,
like, yeah, but if you look at it from a certain point of view, is like, he's not really a bad guy,
if anything,
right?
he was
He's
wronged by the system, but the actions that he did take were still wrong. The actions that he did take in the end, in reaction to a lot of things that were made towards him, were definitely wrong. Such as, if anybody here has watched the TV show Falcon and a Winter Soldier TV show, it's an okay, and I think it could have been better too, and I still like it. I would recommend watching it just because it shows the whole Bucky Barnes and Sam Wilson dynamic. But man, does it show a lot of imagery of actually not even imagery, it's just a lot of symbolism of, in this case, of a man that served his country and the country turned his back against him, and he has devolved into something that I feel like is very much what we see nowadays too, where we do see soldiers that feel like they were just left behind by the system. Like Sam Walker to me represents that. That's a John Walker. There it is.
He said Sam Walker.
Yeah,
He said
I meant John Walker. John Walker represents that part of it too, and that's something that like I really wish they should have played more into that, because Sam Wilson and John Walker, technically in the story, they're both military people. It's just the fact that both of them have different viewpoints of how they treat their services, and in this case, how they look at the government too. Which, if anything, some people could throw in race and whatnot too. And let's be fucking honest about this. It was 100% about race, no matter how you looked at it, and how much we wanted to try to avoid it. And I think that's fine. I think they can play into that really well. I just hate the fact too that at some points at the movie that, what was it, Captain America Brave New World, they kind of just
Yes.
gave him fucking nanotech again. I'm like, God damn it. I liked his other suit where he was like all white. That suit in the show looked amazing, where he actually had to put on, in this case, like visor and goggles. Like, that was cool. And then they gave him a fucking nano suit helmet, and I'm like, God fucking damn it. We're going back to this
Oh,
shit. Like I said, that's my main
from
gripe.
from a certain point of view, it is kind of cheaper with the CGI, but I don't know. It depends on who you ask.
Hey, like I said, I don't care. I love the suit in the TV show that Falcon rocked out. That was awesome. Albeit some people can say, oh, it's from fucking granted by Wakanda. Who gives a shit? That was the best on-screen Falcon that we've ever had.
Yeah,
And I would die
but,
on
like,
that hill for that.
I feel like, well, going kind of back, but the John Walker thing
Right.
It's in Marvel writing, like they sometimes have issues with certain like relatability or somewhat for like anti-heroes. Like
Right.
going back, connecting it back to Brand New Day, Jean Grey. Okay,
Holy shit! What a fucking
she's
reveal.
she's killed. No, well, reveal aside, she has done actual damage. She's probably has caused some people to die throughout her rampages. Well, not rampages, but the
Just like
things that she's
her
done.
just her being a mutant, effectively.
Yeah, yes, and also like how she behaved before it was revealed as Jean Grey.
Mhm.
Mostly like how she like controlled MJ and kind of like really taunted or provoked Spider-Man while he was dealing with his new mutating powers or
Oh
evolving
yeah, that's
powers.
also a plot point
Like,
too.
yeah, it is a plot point. But the thing is that the way she composed herself, the way that she presented herself to the audience, she really was building up to be a very like very antagonistic and kind of like
Yeah,
in my mind, I guess a scumbag, a sort of like a really evil person, not to the level of Green Goblin. Um,
yeah.
but after it was revealed as Jean Grey, I feel like they toned it down. After because before the reveal was Jean Grey, how she controlled people, how she got those people to talk,
To be fair though, that
or how
was like
she talked,
unnerving. They did that so well.
it's nerving. Yes, they did it well. But after it was revealed as Jean Grey, I feel like it's very different because there's a little bit more like I don't know, a little bit more jokey, a little bit more sympathetic. No, not sympathetic. It's because we're meant to sympathize with her because she's just another misunderstood, I guess, character in
Yes.
Marvel, and that needed to connect with Peter in order to redeem her, right? But that still doesn't change the fact that before she did a lot of heinous shit. So
Which
it's like,
I'll I'll let you continue real quick too, but I think there is a purpose for this for future Marvel stuff. But go on.
yeah, and I remember you talking about it, but like that still doesn't because if the plot demands that we be sympathetic with because this is her character arc for the second half of the movie, but like you still have to like so what happens to all the people that she killed or injured in the first half of the movie, right? Suddenly it's okay at that point because like she never answered for any of the crimes that she did in the first half of the movie, right? At the end she never answered for any of it.
Yeah.
So it's like that's a somewhat consistent thing I see in a lot of like anti-hero archetype characters that many Marvel projects tend to, not glorify but try to sympathize with, right? And that was something that kind of like although I do ship the two of them together, but it's like you gotta find a I feel like you gotta find a balance because like you want her to be threatening, you want her to be an actual threat, but then you also want to have the audience sympathize with her, so it's like trying to have your cake and eat it
Mm.
too.
So here's something that at least I would say for the most part too, just for other things too. A lot of times, people in Marvel, no one here is like a goody two shoes like Superman is. Let's be completely transparent about this. A lot of times, people in Marvel, they could be different ranges of being a prick or assholes.
Unless you're Spider-Man.
That can also be debatable too, depending on which Spider-Man we're looking at here. But I think for the way
Unless
how
you're Tom
Jean Grey,
Holland Spider-Man.
here's the thing about it. I think it's in a lot of ways too. This is actually more or less like how Spider-Man kind of forgave her a little bit too easily. It's unfortunately one of the things too. Like I think it is a character fault in Peter Parker himself, where despite a lot of the things too, and for the most part too, you see what happened in No Way Home. He had every justification to fucking murk the shit out of Green Goblin, but he was stopped in because of the fact that the other Peter Parkers knew that like the moment that he crosses that line too, there will be no turning back from this action. And it will haunt him for the rest of his days. And if anything, that we've seen Spider-Man stories that do that too, where he has actually killed something or somebody as well. And it has haunted him. And it's not Gwen Stacy here. Don't use that fucking shtick. If anything, that would have been like a cool story or dark storyline that I wish that they would have followed at the end of like Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but until they fucking shoehorned that because, oh man, we gotta load this bitch with so many fucking villains. God, I fucking hate it.
And don't forget, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man, did end up killing the Uncle Ben killer. So
Yeah. So, uh,
technically speaking,
technically speaking, yeah. And it has changed a person too. That was just something too that like I think he has learned, Tom Holland's character has learned to try to be better about that too. And if anything, this is also him trying to, you know, as much as like, yeah, she definitely did deserve that too. As he was hoping to turn them into the authorities until later on the plot wise that he's discovered that wait a minute, whenever you got possessed by them, you don't remember anything, did you? No. And the person that he trusted to turn him under the authorities says like, oh, I saw like glimpses of it about like a sister is like one. I was like, wait, that should not happen. And then next thing you know, there's some inconsistencies of the story. So like, you know, the Jean Grey was not the real antagonist to it, and someone already picked it up too. Hell, my wife even saw with me too when she saw like the what was it, public safety? I forgot what they were called, or damage control.
damage
center.
control.
Yeah, when she like saw the guy too, and it's like she picked it up to be like, that's the villain right there. It's like, how can you tell? It's like, oh, it's like we're trying to repurpose the villain's weapon into something more productive. It's like strange of hands, like right. And it was like, oh, you guys are also using the hand as well, and they just listen to you, right?
Yeah, it is really like it's not it's not a it's not a very subtle movie.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
yeah,
like
it's
a lot of the things that happened throughout the movie, I was like, yep, called it like 5 minutes ago. I knew this was gonna happen.
yeah,
Like but you know, to be fair, that's not a fault of the movie.
yeah.
Like it's
It's
still
a
a good
matter.
movie.
It's a matter of if you were able to catch it too, then holy shit, and it's like everything falls into pieces of like what actually is happening. Albeit, I don't think Jean Grey did what she was doing was unforgivable. However, I want to give the context too. Let's be honest, Fu. Everybody in the X-Men group are morally questionable characters.
Yep, that famous Ultimate Spider-Man line where he is like, "Oh my God, do you know why people don't like mutants? It's not because you don't like you guys. It's not because you're mutants. It's because you guys are assholes."
Yeah, it's pretty much true. That like I think this is what Jean Grey was kind of setting up to, and I think this is smart of them to have Jean Grey go this fucking hard, at least public wise, because there's a story plot too that we'll tie into here in just a moment. But throughout the entirety of this, dude, like Peter Parker goes through some metamorphic changes, which I kind of do wish they kind of go a little bit more onto, because that also describes more of like effectively the Spider God himself. But you know, they didn't go that far, so we'll just settle for what we have here. But effectively,
Oh yeah.
a
By the
lot
way,
of this,
in that case, I recant what I said about what did Peter Parker gain throughout this whole movie. I recant that he did gain organic webs.
yes,
He did gain that.
he became Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, which is absolutely hilarious that happened that way.
Anyways,
But
going on.
but yes, the way how this is worded out to is the plot point is that like, oh, your spider DNA is starting to become like more elevated than your human DNA, and it's like, what kind of triggered this too? I don't know. It depends. Have you been having some traumatic events that happened to you? And the traumatic event being, oh shit, I just saw MJ with another guy, as if she's living another life without me because I was the one that caused it. I don't know how to process this, so I'm literally just having a fucking mental breakdown right now. And there was a lot of times too where people were looking at, in this case, Peter Parker was just swinging in New York City just as himself. And there was at one point where he was just straight up free falling and looked like he was about to like commit suicide. I was like, huh, I didn't think about it that way too. But it was like,
Odd.
it was something that, again, I didn't think about that too. And then next thing you know, you see that his whole body just straight up like, oh, well, yeah, this is so weird now too. And next thing you know, I have fucking organic web fluid coming out of me. It's like Peter too had it. He was cool with it. Starts squeezing his palm, and then bits of spider silk comes out and go. Ugh. It's like, yeah, I would make that face too.
Oh
Because
my God. Hold on.
what's that?
Brand New Day is just basically Spider-Man 2.
Hey.
Because okay,
All right,
power
explain.
issues due to a traumatic event. Okay, Brand New Day was
Correct.
because he saw MJ with a boyfriend, and that was when he started evolving his powers. But in Spider-Man 2, Toby Spider-Man 2, he went to that party,
Mhm.
and that was when the astronaut guy, Jameson's son, announced that he was marrying. He proposed to MJ, and that
Uh-huh.
was when he started to lose his power. So power changes after a traumatic event. The main villain was redeemed at the end of the movie. Okay.
Right.
And also in the middle of the movie, there was an extremely dramatic character arc moment where he has to reveal some sort of secret he's been holding onto. For Brand New Day, it was Peter and MJ with the letter.
Right.
For Toby, it was Aunt May and the Uncle Ben killing thing.
Right.
So basically, this is plot wise, story beat wise, this is basically Spider-Man 2.
I could see that in that direction too, and I think that's
It's
why
similar. Well,
and here's the funny thing too. I love Spider-Man 2 from Tobey Maguire. That is probably like the best thing about it too. Especially I love Dr. Ock as the villain for that one too. Because this is a sympathetic villain done absolutely correct in the fact that his motivation is the fact that he was trying to do something for the better, but the technology that he used corrupted him. In this case, he went mad. And it wasn't until like he gained that bits of sanity only because the fact that he recognized Spider-Man being he's one of my students and he's the one that looks up to me. And that was like the moment of clarity he realized that, oh shit, I need to fix this and whatnot too. At least let this be my last act of goodwill in front of my favorite student kind of thing. And it's also really touching too in like No Way Home too that we get to see that dialogue again between him and Tobey Maguire. Like it was really heartwarming for me. I was like, damn.
yeah,
I didn't think I'd need that until now.
I've seen people describe it as it's like they're saying hi to you, the audience, again after 20 years. It's like, how are you?
It's like,
essentially.
yeah, it's
nice.
like, yeah, but
generational.
Yeah, I do think too that Brave New World is definitely like probably someone's generations of our Spider-Man too, right?
Brand New Day.
Yeah, Brand New Day. That's why I said. Oh wait, did I say Brand New World? Shit. Anyways. Yeah, but in the parts of the movie too where he's trying to control that too, he confides in this case, Bruce Banner, who's not Professor Hulk, by the way too, because he is in this point has a limiter that at least from everything else too. It's not the fact that he couldn't be Professor Hulk at a time. He just wanted to give the appearance of just being a normal person. So he wore a limiter so that he just becomes a normal human.
Okay, so there's like a double-edged sword with how Hulk was handled in this movie. Okay. One, it's great to see like the Hulk again. Like the Hulk.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the Hulk since Infinity War.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's great to see him again. But this character, Bruce Banner, Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner, is kind of like mishandled, inconsistent. Like one moment he's Professor Hulk in Endgame, and then he just goes back and forth between his relation with the Hulk is, I feel, not very consistently handled throughout the Marvel projects, and understandable. Because at this point, his relationship with the Hulk is whatever the plot demands it. His place in Brand New Day is to be a foil to Peter, who is having power struggles or struggles with balancing his power. And the Hulk is an excellent character to be a foil to this kind of struggle with internal self. Jean Grey is also a pretty excellent choice in terms of a villainous foil to Peter. So like I understand why they are inconsistent with Bruce Banner and the Hulk. I understand why, but it's still a little bit of a like really for some people who've like grown up watching Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk from like the first Avengers, Age of Ultron, Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, Endgame. I feel like some people might be a little bit of a annoyed. Not annoyed. Sorry, annoyed is a little too strong. But like I don't know, I guess I'm just being picky again. But like they're just inconsistent with the character. But it's for the plot, so who cares?
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine too. And one of the things that I want to like finally tie this back into is the fact that there is like I feel like what they're trying to set up with Jean Grey is something that in this case in Brand New Day, while in this case, because you know his mutation is just going out of control, what does he try to do? He goes to confides with Dr. Banner of in this case if he could try to make a inhibitor chip to target selected like genes for that too. And this is a very important thing too for those that love X-Men, because even then you see what Dr. Banner, whenever Peter Parker, or in this case in the part of the story, he goes by the name of Ned because Dr. Banner doesn't remember who Peter Parker is. But whenever he asks him that too, and if it's possible, he says, theoretically it's possible, but you're going into very dangerous territory of, you are not, in this case, you're trying to copy what I'm doing just to suppress like just the appearance of the Hulk. You're going for something deeper, like a universal inhibitor that targets like the one gene that makes people different.
It's a setup. It's a setup for later later installments or later projects. So that's another thing that's kind of amazing about Brand New Day, pun intended. It's that it's not only is it's a very focused, character-driven story that has its own like character arc for various characters in there, Jean Grey, Tom Holland, Spider-Man.
Correct.
But it also does a lot of work in setting up future lore, right? It sets up the inhibitor chip, or the inhibitor, I guess, device. It sets up X-Men potentially be like a bunch of assholes, and it also sets up,
like in this case, the public's descent towards mutants.
Yeah, and it also sets up like how is Spider-Man's relations with various people going to look like going forward. So it's like it's a self-contained story that also does a lot of legwork in setting up, and that's kind of amazing. That's kind of really cool, I think.
And I think that's what they're attempting to do here, right? Because there's a lot of things too that like you can like argue about it too, that like Jean Grey should be like holding herself responsible. It's like, oh yes, most definitely, I think she still does, but I think there is a payoff to this later on. We're not going to be seeing this in Brand New Day, but that is like going to be a main plot point in a lot of X-Men, which is them trying to figure out like how to survive, how to live as mutants along with people kind of already looking weary against them. That was always been a main plot point of a lot of the Bryan Singer X-Men movies too. Hell,
yeah, if anything, the issue with that, the issue I have with that, yes, normal people looking having discrimination, or like the whole point of the X-Men was how like normal people not liking you and discriminating and all that such, which would be a treasure trove of stories you could tell in today's age. But the problem with that is that in the context of the MCU, okay, in the MCU they've already established there are superhero or superpowered beings, right? That is something that is just common knowledge to the citizens or the denizens of the MCU. So obviously they've had tits and tats with the superpowered community throughout all the different movies, with the Sokovia Accords, and also like in Infinity War Endgame, how the people like dealt with superhero events like the Blip and all that stuff. Right. So a lot of what makes the X-Men stories work in the context that normal people are just very weary or very suspicious, untrusting of the X-Men is because they're not because it's like they're different, right? People are always scared of what's different from them, right? But that's kind of a bit, I feel like that's trickier to pull off in the MCU because we've had a long history of superhero events already. So like,
I mean, let's be honest,
I just think that's I just think it's trickier with a universe like MCU because they're already used to superpowered assholes left and right.
I mean, here's the thing too. I need to watch actually with Captain America Brave New World too, because apparently there is some mention too of like, you know, there is like talks from what it sounds like that they're just trying to like rein in like the whole like superhero kind of people in the first place too. Think of, for example, like what happened in Captain America Civil War, the Sokovian Accords, in a lot of ways too. I think here's the thing that I feel like I need to correct myself on that too. At first, I was on Captain America's side for the longest time just because it felt right. But in all reality, if you look at the events that has happened, I start to sympathize and start to side myself. I think Tony Stark was right. And then here's the thing. I think everybody else was also on board with this too. It was just the way how a lot of times too, us getting introduced to fucking Zemo, which please bring him back. He is by far my favorite character in the entirety.
He is a very fascinating character.
Because Zemo in the comics, he is very much like a villain, 100%. But in the sense that I love what the MCU did with this character, where he's not like a telltale sign that he is a villain. It's just the fact that he has a strong disposition of the idea of super soldiers. He has no issues with Captain America, but everybody else, he would do everything he can to take them down because he sees the super soldier as a concept and idea, as a plague and poison to humanity. And I want to know, how does he feel about mutants then too? Because that would be very interesting that they could throw him into the X-Men.
Well, we already have some insight into what his opinions are with superpowered beings in the Captain Winter Soldier and the Falcon. Right? He views the superhuman serum as like an arms race, as a deterrent, as like a inevitable escalation, right? And so therefore he views in the TV show, I believe, it's been a while since I've watched it, he takes it upon himself. It's like he ordains himself as the savior, in the sense that it is his moral duty to destroy the serum, so that you take away the temptation of that power from people who he deems are undeserving of it, right? And that is a very, I guess, morally like not complex, but it's a very understandable stance to have. So how would he view the X-Men? It's a bit different, because the superhero serum is something that you could acquire, and you have the choice of using. But the X-Men, they didn't have a choice in having their powers. So how would he view them? That is a very interesting question. I think he would view them as like, I think he would still view them as like weapons, as like escalation and chaos.
Yeah, because for example,
and ultimately he is a character that strives for order. So he would view the X-Men as chaos, to boil it down as simply as possible.
Yeah, because like in a lot of ways too, this would be so interesting too, that like I said too, it'd be very cool to see, like, I don't think he has like any strong like relations when it comes to mutants, but at any point right now too, I think we can kind of surmise too that super soldiers are the least of the problems that's happening right now to planet Earth. Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
And so now you're looking at, for example, if anybody has watched the Thunderbolts, you have in this case the fucking Sentry, who also, you can't have the Sentry without the Void, which is a terrifying concept of a fucking cosmic horror villain that we have seen in MCU. That's all I got for that too. And so having that and viewing this with now, like, he could probably look at right now what's currently happening with New York with Jean Grey, which for the most part, Jean Grey started off as really weak too, until she, at the moment, at the climax of the movie, that was when I was like, oh shit, she just became Omega, like instantly too.
Like, how would they go forward with this? I know they're producing a new X-Men movie. You mentioned it, like who's in it and who they've casted as like Cyclops and Emma Frost and all that stuff. I know you talked about that. But like, where did they go from this? And also, tying it back to Brand New Day, where did they go with Tom Holland's Spider-Man? Tom Holland's Peter then? Like,
I mean, I think he's just going to be Spider-Man. I think that's the best way to kind of look at this ending too. He's just going to be Spider-Man throughout this whole thing too. Unfortunately for a lot of people, I don't think he will keep his friends, but you know, a lot of times too, there's some hope to this too, because you know, one of Jean Grey's amazing powers that she could do as an Omega level telepath is the fact that she could actually bring back memories. Because before, they said that when she first inhabited like Mary Jane's body, there was nothing about Peter Parker there, but that was before she unlocked her Omega level capabilities. So there is
and then
hope.
she did like shed a tear in the middle of all that Jean Grey power exploding. She did shed a tear, which some people interpreted as her getting her memories back, or at least having some weird subtle access to those memories, which okay.
I don't think it would happen exactly there too.
I think it's a cop out. I think that they should not. They absolutely should not like give them memories back. I think they should keep it like absolute. That was one of the things going into this movie I was so curious about, is the mechanism behind the spell. Because in the comics, there are some stories explore the mechanism of how the people forgot Peter Parker and Spider-Man, and
Mhm.
there's a really interesting mechanic where it's like he can take off his mask and they can see his face. People who knew Peter Parker can see his face and remember everything. But the moment he puts the mask back on, the moment they don't see his face anymore, they will forget. And then there's also a different mechanic where it explains that they can piece the, they can like the if there are clues, like really obvious clue that Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Like if someone sees Spider-Man swing into a house and then Peter Parker comes out, like logically you would think, oh, Spider-Man equals Peter Parker's, but the mechanic of the spell forces them to reshuffle that information and come to the wrong conclusion. I was so curious going into Brand New World to see what the mechanism of the spell is. Are they going to do anything fancy like that? Because we kind of saw it with what was it, Doctor Strange 2, where
Right.
they were, I think it was like America Chavez was like, what kind of universe is this? There's an Ant-Man and a Spider-Man, and then they're like, yeah, the Ant-Man, yeah, we have a lot of insect heroes, and then there's Ant-Man and Spider-Man, which no one really knows who he is. And I was like, ooh, that's a little clue into the spell, right? So like I was hoping for something fun like that. Well, I didn't get it, but still, like, don't change the spell. Don't like undo the spell. Like
Yeah.
it's fine that he lost Ned and MJ, and like the handshake thing is cute, but ultimately I feel like there's a good chance that in whatever next Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, it's not it's I personally hope it amounts to a nothing burger kind
Yeah,
of.
we'll see though, because there are chances too for people that want to hold out hope and optimism about this too. That Ned himself, we've seen that he actually does have mystic power capabilities, so he
Yep.
can use magic. So there are times too in like No Way Home, whenever they did that one handshake too, it was only a very specific scene too that I completely forgot that this happened, where they did their usual handshake while he had the spell slinging ring on. And with that, as they finish it, there was like a spark that happened. Now, for me, when I remember I watched that scene, I thought it was just him like, oh, that was just him kind of like almost attempting to try to open a portal, kind of, but it didn't go through. But then it kind of
It's a
put it,
funny random moment.
yeah, it was just a funny random moment too. But honestly, that could be a reasoning to that too, that could be pulled from. And there is even towards the end too, where, what was it? MJ is kind of sitting on the roof of New York City and just holding like the Black Dahlia that she got from Far From Home from Peter Parker. And that is a very interesting to word about it too. Is like she knows that like somebody close to her gave her this, because there was no one else that would actually know what kind of gift to give her outside of that
Yeah,
person.
and
So
she pieced it together. It's very plausible she pieced it together that it was Peter.
yeah. And here's the thing too. I mean, I think she does believe like it's like one of the most heartbreaking things to see that like she doesn't carry the same feelings to Peter that she did. And it's obvious too, because obviously she doesn't remember you. She has no memory of you. And I think deep down she probably has something that felt missing, but couldn't put it in words. It's just that when you put that type of story development in front of her that way too, obviously that's how she's going to react normally to someone that she doesn't know.
So, in terms of Peter, in terms of Tom Holland Spider-Man, if they make a new movie, which they said they're not working on the next Spider-Man movie, they want to give the two of them or the cast some time to rest, which honestly deserved, especially since they also had the Odyssey.
Yeah.
So like I'm trying to like think about what they could do with the next Spider-Man movie. I honestly think whatever the next Spider-Man movie is, it's going to be a setup for like Miles Morales, because
Maybe.
like
Yeah.
it has. I feel like it's about time that they try to have Tom Holland Spider-Man pass the mantle to the next one, because he's had a lot of character arcs. He's had a lot of really good character arcs. So like
I-
ended on a good note. So I'm thinking that okay, logically, the next movie has a high chance of being about passing the mantle to Miles Morales. But I'm also thinking in terms of like most of the audiences expect, or rather are used to, seeing the trio in the Tom Holland movies, like Ned, MJ, and Peter. So logically speaking, Ned and MJ there's a high chance that they should be in a movie that's about Peter passing the mantle, because they were with him in the beginning. So story arc wise, it makes sense for them to be at the end, right? You
Right.
can't have it. I think symbolically, you can't have it any other way. You have to have the two of them together. So what does that mean? If a movie has to be about passing the mantle and Ned and MJ have to be there, then what would be Ned and MJ's purpose in that movie? I feel like the movie would try to set them up that Peter will get back together with both of them, and then they'll be together and be able to, I don't know, be friends again, maybe, like break the spell. Maybe that would be kind of like, yeah. But I just think logically speaking, I feel like that would be the next step in the next movie.
Maybe. If anything, I don't think like what you're saying is that far off either too. But I do like in this case where he is just right now, all he is right now is that he is Spider-Man. And also for the people that are saying, how is he able to afford the tech here too if he's no longer funded by Tony Stark? Motherfucker's a junk monkey too. He is dumpster diving a lot of that shit too. It's like, you can't find good tech in a dumpster. You want to fucking bet? So
yeah, and it's a movie. It's just suspend your beliefs, man. It's just get immersed. It's just enjoy the ride, and like, you know, to be fair, MCU, the tech level is a lot higher. So like, you know, like what we see is really high tech stuff probably is, in context of the MCU, really low tech stuff, you know? Like we don't know, we've never lived in a world where there was Iron Man developing fucking nanotech suits everywhere left and right, like it's out of fashion, you know? Literally is out of fashion though.
And if anything too, I love this version of Peter Parker where he has like his fucking like rinky dinky like workshop that he has set up too, and I was like, dog, I could see this being my own fucking workshop too, especially with like the parts that like, yeah, you could probably find out like some school like project stuff too that they probably threw away that you could repurpose it yourself, because everyone forgets too, he's fucking smart. He could do this shit too. He is able to make a universal inhibitor chip, which that would be a tool that we will use for later.
So for the next X-Men movie, since they're obviously setting one up like this, okay,
correct.
So I have a couple of things about the next X-Men movie.
Proceed.
Right? So we already know Jean Grey's in it. We already know Emma Frost is in it.
Correct.
And I do believe Cyclops was cast in it.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes, I forgot the actor's name for that one too. But yes, Cyclops actor has been casted. So we'll see what happens.
So like, what kind of movie would have Emma Frost, Cyclops, and Jean Grey in it? And that's curious. Like, they can take this in a lot of different directions. And also, to tie it back to a recent Marvel project, I feel like it's inevitable, but I feel like they should try. Well, actually, no, it's not that inevitable. I feel like they should try to introduce magic, the character. Because as far as I know, has Magic actually appeared in any sort of like cartoon show? Or I know she's not been in any movies, but has she ever appeared in?
I think she is in a movie. I think she was in a movie before too, but it was also a very obscure movie too, like the Mutants or some shit like that.
Oh, the New Mutants, one of those. Right?
Yeah.
But I feel like with the popularity of the character due to Marvel Rivals and Marvel Token, because did I see this right? But Magic is like one of the top played characters, or one of the most popular characters in Token.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. So like, that sounds like she is primed and ready for an MCU debut. But you know, it's gamers. This is the gamers' popularity we're talking about. So you know, that might not mean much. But I feel like it'd be interesting to see like a very like true to form adaptation of Magic in the MCU. And if they're building up the X-Men films for the MCU, there might be some Magic in the future.
Maybe.
I think that'd be nice.
Yeah.
Would they even cast though?
Yeah. But some of the things too that at least one of like my other favorite parts of like the Brand New Day trying to go back into this too. People were like, in this case, they were definitely weirded out in the fact that why is Punisher in this fucking movie? And they're like, this is not the same Punisher that we saw in like fucking the last series or the recent TV shows. Like, okay, and I agree with you. It does seem a bit odd, but at the same time, he works in this film, surprisingly.
And let's also be honest, he's in this movie because they're friends. The actors themselves are friends, good relation, and it's a good little marketing story they can say to justify.
Yeah. And here's the funny thing too, that I saw this meme too, and it's at this point it's stuck with me just because it is true. What was it? What Peter Parker could achieve in 2 hours to Frank Castle, that Daredevil or Matt Murdock could not do in 3 seasons. And one person replied, yeah, it's because Matt Murdock is a fucking asshole.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like he's the only person out of everybody else here that keeps bringing up Frank Castle's like dead family. You know what Peter Parker does too? He doesn't do that shit. He just reminds you, I saved your ass on Staten Island. It's like, God damn it, shut up with that. And you see, that's like, holy fucking shit. It's like pretty much the way how you get to Frank Castle is pretty much just that. Stop mentioning his fucking dead family. Like, Jesus.
You know, it's so funny. It's so funny to me personally with Spider-Man and like Daredevil and Punisher, because it reminds me of this one arc in Ultimate Spider-Man where Spider-Man teams up with Daredevil, Danny Rand, Iron Fist, and Shang-Chi and Doctor Strange, because at the time they were all trying to take down Wilson Fisk, and at that time these superheroes, Doctor Strange, Iron Fist, Shang-Chi, and Daredevil, they were considered low-tier heroes, like low popularity heroes, like B-rated heroes.
Surprising, right? Especially Spider-Man.
Back then. So it was, so whenever I hear mention of Punisher or Daredevil with Spider-Man, I just think back to that arc, and it was an interesting arc because these are all like beat level heroes, and they all have to work together to take down Wilson Fisk. And so if they ever want to do something like that, I think that'd be pretty cool.
Maybe.
That sounds more like TV show territory, but oh well, it is what it is.
Yeah. And it's also one of the few things here that, like, I think Daredevil works really well into this. I think he actually has, like, a lot of great moments in a film, surprisingly, too, just because, holy shit, they actually recreated one scene where Punisher did shoot Spider-Man. Albeit, it did not result in his death. However, people were definitely, like, shocked and on their seat for that reason. And I'll be honest, too. Shit,
I stand by what I told you earlier, but Punisher literally made everything worse. No, everything he did was all in the service of making everything worse. And you know, I do like their chemistry. I do like their married couple, big brothers, little brothers synergy, and the bickering. I do like that. I think it's really nice. I think it's really great. Yes, he's very different from how he is in the TV show, but it's weird. It's a very weird character inclusion, because it works for certain parts. It works really well, and for other parts, it's like this doesn't really work very well. So overall, I think it's a net positive, and it's just interesting to me that a character can end up being so net positive despite having vastly different like workings. Like this works, this doesn't work, but somehow it ends up working. Weird.
Yeah, we won't know too much about it too. I think there will be more of a role that John Bernthal is going to be as Punisher, because let's be honest about it, he's still really good about it too, despite how everyone is like, oh, he doesn't get Punisher right. Shut up. You guys are not doing the work that he's doing.
Yeah, I feel like if the audience had such a good, positive reaction to his Punisher in this movie, especially the the executive types are going to be looking at this movie because like, oh, $2 billion, what worked in this movie? And they see audiences really had a positive reaction to this brotherly, or like this John Bernthal and Tom Holland Spider-Man, then you bet, I'm willing to bet that they're going to bring him back in future movies, right?
Yeah.
Not necessarily TV shows, because if I were an executive, I see that, oh, the TV show didn't do it well, but this movie did really well, so let's put him in movies.
Yeah.
I can definitely see him coming back more. I mean, maybe he'll be in Secret Wars.
I mean, let's be honest too. I think he's also something too that like he's kind of like mirroring off from like, this is like a result off of like Deadpool and Wolverine, for example. Like the chemistry between like Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds in that movie too was funny as fuck, in all honesty.
It was like having good actors having good chemistry that they can bounce off of each other is like such a positive. It's such a positive
because you can see it on screen. That's the thing.
Yes, you can. So that's why like movies where it's kind of lacking that doesn't do very well, which is kind of like, wow, that's really obvious saying it out loud.
Yeah, it's like, who would have thought otherwise? But you know, it is what it is. But I think if we were to really kind of put everything together too, I think Brand New Day is a great movie. It has everything about it too. There are many points about it that I would even say that like maybe it could have been better. But at the same time, the things that could have been better, I was already happy with in the first place too. It was just for me, that was just something that it could be better, but I'm happy with what I got in the end.
Yeah, and I can understand some of the more negative views on this movie. Like I remember my first like where a certain somebody in our Discord like mentioned that I waited 5 years just for this. Like, you know, that's understandable. But overall it is a good I do think it's a good movie. I
Yeah.
think it's quite nice. I feel like it's fulfilling to me because
Mhm.
like it's progress, it's closure, it's moving on from a lot of it feels like a lot of baggage has been like a lot of luggage has been let go with
Yeah.
this movie. It's kind of
I mean, that's the
cathartic,
whole
kind
point.
of like releasing. Yeah, it is. That's the whole point of the movie. So like when you have a movie where you can get the audience to feel something that's similar to what the characters are going through, that's a resonance. That's something that's special, I feel.
Yeah.
And that's something that makes the movie like that's something that generates movie magic.
Yeah. Because here's the thing
When you
about it
really
too, that like,
connect with the characters. Yes, go
yeah.
on.
Yeah, not only like the whole baggage thing too. That's like the literally the metaphor that Peter Parker's like spider DNA going out of control too. He was like carrying so much burden. Like in a way too, his thing going out of control could literally just be the representation of like depression about it. And in a lot of ways too, it's like in a one of many ways of like how people like go through it as well. Where at some point he just kind of accepts the fact he stops trying to suppress that DNA part and just becomes like truly what he is supposed to be. In this case, Spider-Man. Instead of like trying to hold everything back to try to maintain something to try to hold on to what he views as like normalcy to him before he made everybody forget who he was, because that's how I saw it too whenever he was trying to go back to his regular web shooters too. That was just something that he knew and something that he could still latch onto. And him finally embracing that too is finally him taking the step forward that this is my new life now. I have to embrace this part of myself. And that was honestly a beautiful image or a beautiful iconography of like him finally realizing who he's meant to be as Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I've kind of warmed up to that point of view. I know you told me about it, and I know I've told you about my initial point of view of that scene.
Mhm.
That I thought it was unearned because it's like, oh yeah, because it's like he went through all the struggle. He kind of like just out of nowhere, like, oh, the evolving powers is no longer an issue anymore. That was my initial view of it, but I've warmed up to that perspective, and I do think that that is what they were going for, and I changed my mind. It does work, and it works very well.
Yeah. Just because, like, again, too, the whole movie itself is literally a metaphor to Peter Parker, like, coming to terms with this new reality. Like, him working as Spider Man, too, becoming, like, a hero in New York City. Let's be honest, too. The reason why it felt like, oh, why did we skip through all of this, too? Because that was not what mattered, too. This is us, the director, or a lot of the writers are showing us to him that he's just going through the motion as avoidance. And next thing you know, when he's actually trying to, maybe I could try to do this, he finally meets like the first hurdle of like coming to realization of like his own decision is the fact that he saw MJ moved on.
Yeah, and I really like how you say that the movie they chose to time skip a lot of his time as Spider-Man because he was just going through the motion. Because at least to me personally, that is extremely relatable. Like for me, just waking up and then just going doing my job is like just me going through the motions. And then after I'm done with my job, I come back and then I just go through the motions with being on my computer, watching movies and playing video games and whatnot, and it goes to sleep, right? So like this is when life isn't happening, which I think is something that's very relatable to a lot of people, where
Yeah.
you're just going through the motion. And so when life suddenly, very randomly happens, like maybe like a significant somebody enters your life, or maybe like something catastrophic happens, right? And how do you react to that? You've been going through the motions the whole time, and suddenly now you're demanded to take initiative, to make big decisions, right?
Yeah.
That's relatable. That is relatable to normal people, and that has always been something that Spider-Man is really good in terms of stories, is that they're relatable to normal people.
Yeah, and that's like again too. A lot of people are saying otherwise, like, oh, like he forgave Jean Grey too easily on that. It's like in a lot of ways too. You could say that I could agree with that statement, but that's also again part of himself is like doing this as a way to like, how do I fully address this issue or problem too? Because half the time too, I think the whole thing should have been able to be solved too if Peter Parker actually stood and actually tried to listen to this person out. But obviously, we see obviously too that she is a danger. That's something that obviously, in a lot of ways, he couldn't help that too. He's trying to stop that, and that was like again him stopping the problem, but not exactly addressing of like why this was a problem in the first place. But obviously, for the time that the story that kind of demanded him to be, he had to make a quick decision. And if anything, he regretted the decision, and he goes in and tries to own up to it and makes it right for himself, because obviously too he didn't want Jean Grey to be effectively experimented on, which if anything that itself becomes another plot point later on down the line for X-Men. But that
Phoenix
is
Force anyone? But yeah.
but yes, him doing all this stuff too, and I can understand people probably don't like that aspect of Peter Parker forgiving people too easily or giving people second chances, but that's just how he is in like comics as well. Sometimes he is like too forgiving to people to a fault, but it's not like he
Oh.
forgives people just because of that too. Sometimes he truly thinks about it and actually comes to realization of like, I really want to help this person, how can I do this correctly?
Yeah, because like this is before we jumped in and recorded this podcast. I kind of skimmed over another video essay. It talked about Doom, Doctor Doom, choosing Peter as his like champion or something.
Oh,
and
from
it
the
goes into detail.
yeah,
in the comics, and like it goes into detail about like he could have chosen like Thor, he could have chosen Reed, he could have chosen like Iron Man or Captain America, but he chose Peter as like someone who he respects or like who is quote unquote worthy. And a lot of it is like maybe it was kind of like sloppy and how they used examples and references, but it kind of makes sense because it's like Peter doesn't just save innocents, Peter just saves people. Doesn't matter who you are. Peter just saves heroes, Peter saves villains, even No Way Home. So like that's just who he is, and like it's really characterized in how Doom describes Spider-Man, because like Doom is very petty, but Doom respects Spider-Man because he's not only like morally predictable, but he sticks with it. And strength, that's the strength of Spider-Man. He saves people. That's all he does.
Yeah, and pretty much no one is ever really going to like argue otherwise too for that.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of like Nightwing.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because like even villains in DC, they respect Nightwing.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? But yeah, but I feel like we're kind of at this moment right now. We talked a lot through with Brand New Day, some like the big points too about the things that we talked about. I am excited as well too of like what they could do with X-Men, just because Brand New Day, even though it is a standalone Spider-Man movie, there are many actions that have been taken here that can be an easy setup, an easy storyline that could be explained away in the next X-Men movie.
Yeah, it could be. It could have been really bad. It could have been really bad in the sense that, hey, if they didn't handle the story or write the story well enough, people could just view Brand New Day as like, oh, this is just a setup for X-Men. So like Tom Holland got upstaged by the X-Men in his own movie.
Yeah.
Right? No, absolutely not. This. I feel like the writing is really well balanced in terms of like giving more credence to both Peter and Jean. They both got their character arcs. I don't feel like any of them overshadowed the others. I think they worked the character arcs and what they did worked very well with each other. And I am looking forward to how the new X-Men movie is going to be like. And also I am looking forward to how Doomsday is going to end up being. That is going to be a very chaotic movie.
Yes. But yes, I do think too that like again, I do understand too of like some of the things he was like, oh, Peter Parker going through this whole mutation thing is just so that it sets up for the X-Men. I'm like, and like I already explained before, it could be, but I feel like this is a more perfect analogy of like why like his spider DNA did happen too. And let's be honest too, there's not a lot of things that people truly know about like Peter Parker's like spider bite affliction outside the fact that he gives him wall crawling abilities and spidey senses in the movies. But we don't know like the true extent. We already had glimpse of it during Civil War where it was just like, huh, he's actually ridiculously strong for no reason. I.e., he fucking like blocks and grabs a punch from Bucky Barnes, who is a super soldier by the way, and has no issues.
Did they ever go into much detail with the actual spider or the events that led to him getting bitten by a spider? That's something
No.
they could do, actually.
Not, like I said, that's why I feel like
They
they
could
could have gone that. I wish they would have gone deeper in that, because then we actually got introduced to, I believe, the spider god. I think Mordo. I completely forgot the name. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I forget as well, but like, I mean, narratives, writer wise, that is just a potential thing in the chamber they could fire off whenever they want.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. I just looked it up real quick. Kwaku Anasi. And here's
Never heard of that.
Don't worry. It's actually more closer to a more recent one with Miles Morales.
More closer is grammatically incorrect.
Shut up. I hate you for this. But anyways, and I would say too, they could definitely have talked about Spider God, because you know what would be a really cool way to tie this all together? We could introduce fucking Khonshu back again too. You know, we start seeing more gods actually becoming more of a fucking relevant thing here now.
I don't think you should do that.
I
think you should keep Spider-Man grounded.
Maybe, but like I said, this is just for me too, because I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I know
you're a big Spider-Man. I am too, but like, to be honest, like, the multiverse thing and like Across the Spider-Verse and whatever the third movie is going to be called.
Yeah,
I'm kind of like checked out of it, because it's like, I just want to, that's why Brand New Day is so refreshing, because I just want to focus on Peter. I just want like a very character driven on Peter. All this fantastical world jumping and like, I don't know, space battle thing, sometimes it's just refreshing to just keep it at street level, keep it just being a simple, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah,
that's
perfectly fine too.
Pure Spider-Man. But like, sometimes fantastical adventures, that is kind of like a draw of the superhero genre. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
But yeah, anyways, well, I feel like that's all we could really do here too. Thank you, Fu, for joining in for this too, and we definitely had a amazing back and forth for this too, and I can't wait for this case Doomsday, because my favorite villain gets to be on screen. Fucking Doctor Doom.
We gotta do this after Doomsday.
Oh, we are most definitely doing it. All right, but anyways, thank you all again. See ya.
Bye.